Matt Boldy nearly scored 4 goals against the Capitals today. He did get a hat trick, though, and the Wild come up with a big 5-3 win. We break down all the action on today's Locked On Wild postcast.
You are Locked On Wild postcast, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, your team every day.
Minnesota Wild pick up a 5-3 win over the Washington Capitals, their 40th win of the season, and the Wild are now 12-1-3 in their last 16 games. Today's Locked On Wild postcast is officially in session. Seth Topal joined by Kevin Gorg once again today. And Kevin, right off the bat, the Wild get a couple of early goals. It looked like a team that, with how the game went against the Bruins yesterday, was really eager to make a statement here in this one.
Yeah, they came out hungry. No question about it. They were looking for a little redemption. They didn't play a bad game, as we discussed yesterday against Boston, but they were playing shorthanded against the best team in the league. And the best team in the league showed again today in Buffalo just how dominant they can be. So there was no real shame in losing that game. But this is a team that's gotten used to winning. They've been on a roll, and they wanted to get right back into their winning ways. And so I thought that Johansson, Boldy line with Eck in the middle really set the tone for this hockey game. They came out with their pants on fire and put Washington back on their heels. And I think that set the tone for a day where 5-on-5, I thought Minnesota just looked like the better team. I thought Washington's power play, as always, was a great equalizer, but I thought the Wild earned this win, and it started with those opening 5 minutes.
Well, you talk about Johansson too, and we've talked about him a ton since he came back here, but I mean, looking like Kirill out there and skating around the perimeter of the zone with that speed that he has, he just looks like a completely different player than he did his first time here, and he has just become a huge difference maker for this team.
Yeah, and I guess that's the big question mark the Wild will have between now and Tuesday's game in New Jersey, because he left today's game with about 13 minutes left, went down the tunnel and did not return. He took a puck, was friendly fire. He was in front of the net, providing some net front presence, and took a puck down around his boot. And, I watched him walk down the tunnel. It's kind of where I watch the home games, and it didn't look terribly painful. He was in some pain, so hopefully it's good news that we get tomorrow when they reevaluate Marcus Johansson, because he's just been so impactful for this hockey team. And when the Wild are at their best, they've got multiple lines that are generating chances and going. And it took the Kirill Kaprizov injury to wake some of this offense up, but it's going right now. I mean, you're seeing all 4 lines produce. And when 97 gets healthy here and is back in a couple of weeks, this is going to be a better hockey team than he left. And that's saying something.
We saw the return of Brandon Duhaime, also Jonas Brodin and Jake Middleton back to the lineup, and all 3 guys playing big impacts. Duhaime with that just filthy backhand power play goal. And, I like to point to him as somebody who just is a real pulse for this team, who we also have talked about a ton on these postcasts. But it's nice to see those guys slot back into the lineup and immediately pay dividends when they return.
Well, Duhaime's a heart and soul guy. It's a great point you make, Seth. But if you ever watch a game in St. Paul and you're near the bench, just watch the energy he brings before he even gets on the ice. He's barking at the officials. He's cheering his teammates on. He's into the game. He brings something to the rink every single night. And when he gets on the ice, I mean, Brandon Duhaime's a good hockey player. I think people, because he's kind of played a bottom 6 role here throughout most of his time in Minnesota, I think folks underestimate his offensive prowess. This guy has a ton of skill, and he can slot anywhere in that lineup for Dean Evason, and he showed that skill on that back end. Now, to the 2 guys on the blue line, you talk about guys making an impact. I mean, Jonas Brodin might be their very best. It's probably a flip of the coin between him and Sturgeon, but we know what Jake Middleton brings with that size and that strength in front of the net. They both came back today, and what was really great to see is they looked like the players that they were throughout most of this year when they were healthy. Sometimes when guys come back, they don't look quite as sharp, or maybe their timing's off. That was not the case with Middleton and Brodin today, and they were awesome.
We saw a frustrated Washington bunch down the stretch, which led to a tussle between Mason Shaw and I forget which Washington player involved. But, I can't say enough good things about what Mason Shaw continues to bring to this team. He's a tough player, and, it's being able to just kind of channel some of that frustration and take it out against the opponents. Usually is a good way for this team to just continue to play good hockey.
I thought it was really cool after he wrestled that Capitals player down and got the better of him in that skirmish. We had a good shot on our broadcast day of the Wild bench, and those guys were going crazy and had big smiles on their faces. Mason Shaw is a guy that has had to do it the hard way throughout his career. He's had multiple injuries that might have been career-ending. He won't go away. And you hear Dean Evison talk about who Mason Shaw is and the gleam in Evison's eye, because Dean was always that hard-nosed guy that had to earn his way into the lineup by going out there and playing the hard minutes, covering people up, defending, dropping the mitts. That was who Dean Evison was. He didn't get anything easy or free in this league. And he sees Mason Shaw as a chip off the old block, right? A guy that he can relate to. And Mason Shaw doesn't take a shift off, doesn't take a night off. You talk about a guy that's earned the respect of the teammates around him. That guy is Mason Shaw. He's beloved by this team. I'm telling you that much.
Kevin, we saw another good performance for Marc-Andre Fleury as he picks up his 7th straight win and getting to the point of the season where he's playing some of his best hockey of the year at the end of the year, which if this team continues to get good goaltending from both him and Philip Gustafsson, this is going to be a dangerous team come playoff time.
I think Wild fans know that you can win in the playoffs a bunch of different ways with good goaltending. We saw it in that 2003 Western Conference final run with Fernandez and Rolison. It can happen. Right now, it's a great battle. It's a great discussion point. Who gets the net game one in the playoffs? And Marc-Andre Fleury is a guy that's played big games in big spots, and it feels like the higher the stakes, the better he usually is. And this was one of those games where you kind of knew going in today that the Capitals were going to come with everything they had. And if you're a Wild fan and you're staring down a daunting trip that takes you to New Jersey on Tuesday against a very good team in the Eastern Conference, off that big winning streak, you did not want to go back-to-back losses before you hit the road. So it felt like a big game for Minnesota, and Fleury responded. I thought he made some brilliant saves when it mattered most, when the Capitals were pressing to try to get back in the game, when it was a 1 or 2 goal game and the game was still in the balance. I thought he faced a lot of really high-quality chances today, and he looked sharp. 7 wins in a row doesn't tell the whole story. 2 of those wins, basically, he stole the game. I look at that game in Winnipeg, and he, frankly, was the only reason the Wild won that game. But that's what you need this time of year. You're not always going to get the offensive production. You're not always going to be at your very best. It's been a busy schedule. These have been physical, emotional games. The team is going to go through some ups and downs. Goaltending can be the great equalizer, and the Wild have 2 good ones. And right now, Flower is really taking a hold of his game.
It all leads to a 5-3 win for the Minnesota Wild. We'll talk about the Devils coming up. We will talk a little Alex Ovechkin because it's hard not to talk about Ovi when he comes to town. All that and more coming up as we continue today's Locked On Wild postcast after a word from our sponsor, which for today's Locked On Wild postcast is Athletic Greens. And Athletic Greens is a product that I have started to use every single day because it helps you simplify your vitamin and supplement routine. All it takes is 1 delicious scoop of AG1, and you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. Best of all, it is lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Continuing today's Locked On Wild postcast, the Wild pick up a 5-3 win over the Washington Capitals. Seth Topol joined by Kevin Gorg. Kevin, Alex Ovechkin with a couple of goals here today, continuing his quest for the top spot in the NHL. Just fun to watch that guy do his thing, and it's crazy for how long he's been doing it. Also crazy that he continues to be as productive as he does the further into his career he gets.
Yeah, he was a true game-time decision. From talking to some of the media folks on the side of the Washington Capitals who talked to their coaching staff, it was going to be warm up and see how you feel. But Ovechkin's chasing records right now, and the Capitals are in a desperate place trying to get into the playoffs out in the East. And he lived up to the hype. I mean, this guy, when it's all said and done, he's going to be the best pure goal scorer this league's ever seen. I still think Gretzky and Crosby were different types of players. Gretzky, to me, will always be the best player I ever watched with my own eyes. This guy's special. And then, for me, what made today a little extra special was the fact that after the game, Kirill Kaprizov, who's obviously idolized this guy and now is friends with Ovechkin, they got together and walked down the hall in front of the Wild locker room. There was a group of kids there. I don't know the whole story because I was tied up with my post-game duties for our broadcast. The bottom line is Ovechkin and Kirill went over there and took some pictures, signed some autographs, gave away some sticks, and made the day of some kids here that were at the game. And to me, that's pretty cool too, right? I mean, that relationship that he's developed as he's gotten older. Early on in his career, I don't think he had that connection on a national level with the fans, but I think that cup run that they had and Ovechkin and the way he celebrated that cup and the passion he showed really humanized him to the fan base it is in the National Hockey League. And then I just know behind the scenes what he means to Kirill Kaprizov and how cool it was to see those guys chumming around after the game today. That was pretty neat.
That is awesome. So we'll keep an eye on Marcus Johansson's status heading into Tuesday's game against the Devils. Kevin, what is the latest on Marcus Foligno? Did not get into today's game, but I would imagine he's got to be pretty close to ready.
Yeah, Dean Evison just talked about that a few minutes ago in his post-game presser and said Marcus Foligno absolutely will be on the trip. The Wild are not going to practice tomorrow. We're going to go straight to the plane. But it did sound like, and Dean was still kind of hinting at it, that Foligno would be available to play. And if that's the case, I would expect him to slot it in. Johansson, I would guess, would be a decision we'll probably get a final answer on Tuesday morning at morning skate. If they're off tomorrow, that morning skate will involve basically the entire team. And hopefully it's not too serious. You've got depth right now, and I think, part of the reason you didn't see Johansson come back to the game is it wasn't a 4-4 game. If it was a tie game, they might have rushed him back on the ice. Having a lead throughout the day-to-day, having the depth they have right now, they can get through some of these situations. It's allowed them to take the high road on this Kaprizov injury, and I think that'll be something to watch because Johansson, the one thing he did say about his time, the first time through Minnesota, he could never get healthy and feel like he could find his best game. Well, he's found it now. He's healthy right now, and if he can stay healthy, he's going to be the player that can really swing the pendulum. So Minnesota, when they get Kaprizov back, you've got that 1-2 punch that made the Wild such a dangerous team when Fiala was here with Boldy last year. We're seeing a lot of that again now, and that's a credit to the skill that Johansson has brought to the table.
Final one for you. Let's talk about the Devils a little bit. One of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, but just a juggernaut on the road. They have not been as good at home as they have on the road, but regardless, it's going to be a tough test for the Wild, but one that I think they are definitely up for come Tuesday.
Yeah, the Devils are a team that's built around puck possession, and that's how they beat you, and that's why they've been such a good road team. They have frustrated teams on the road. Now, to your point, Seth, they haven't been just as effective on their home ice. Because I think sometimes when you play at home, and Dean Evison's referenced this throughout the years, you try to make plays for the fans, try to get them going a little bit, but that's taking the Devils off their game. I would expect on Tuesday a much tighter game than we saw today, a lower scoring 2-1, 3-2 type of hockey game, where I think both teams are going to be respectful of the opposition's skill, and both teams are going to want to play it zone to zone. Minnesota's at their best when they're defending. It's just been crazy to me that in the 5 games since Kaprizov went out, The Wild have scored 24 goals. I'm not sure that trend can continue. It's been great to see, but when push comes to shove, if this team is going to be a playoff backdoor and move along in the Western Conference, maybe to win a division here down the stretch, it's still going to be from the back end out. Good goaltending, good solid defense. And now that Middleton and Brodin are back, I would expect that would be the game plan Tuesday. I think it's going to be a super entertaining game and a lot of fun for Wild fans to watch Minnesota try to match up with a team that's been one of the great storylines, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference throughout this season.
Yeah, we can't wait to see how that one plays out on Tuesday. That will do it for today's Locked On Wild postcast. Kevin, we appreciate the time as always. Listeners, make sure to keep an eye out for full episodes here throughout the week as we gear up for that big one on Tuesday and the rest of the week as well. Follow along with Locked On Wild throughout the rest of the season as we get you ready for the final handful of games and the push to the playoffs. You can follow us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. Make sure that you do so you don't miss out on any of our new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.